El ex biógrafo personal de Donald Trump, Mike Wolf, está soltando todo lo que sabe. Por si no lo sabes, Mike Wolf casi, pero casi se convierte en el biógrafo personal de Jeffrey Epstein, pero aparentemente se cárcel. Mike Wolf, antes de que Jeffrey Epstein fuera arrestado, pasó incontables horas con él hablando sobre todo, pues como te digo, casi es su biógrafo personal, así que tuvo que pasar mucho tiempo con él. Así que por ende, Wolf tiene incontables horas grabadas de conversaciones tanto con Jeffrey Epstein, con Donald Trump y con la familia de Donald Trump. Así que por la misma razón yo considero que Mike Wolf podría ser la persona con más conocimiento sobre Donald Trump y Jeffrey Epstein. Y también considero yo que podría ser de las personas que más podría tener entendimiento de qué hay dentro de los archivos de Jeffrey Epstein y también de por qué esto preocupa tanto a Donald Trump. Wolf también tiene contactos muy fuertes dentro de la Casa Blanca que le informaron qué pasó exactamente el fin de semana que Donald Trump aparentemente pasó llamando frenéticamente a amigos muy cercanos sobre qué hacer con Ghislaine Maxwell. Por si no sabes, Ghislaine Maxwell es la mano derecha de quien en vida fue Jeffrey Epstein y es culpable de crímenes atroces que cometió a la par que Jeffrey Epstein. Él habló sobre que Donald Trump estaba preguntando sobre la posibilidad de darle un indulto a Ghislaine Maxwell, o sea de perdonarle la cárcel a Ghislaine Maxwell. Y en este video vas a escuchar detalles y unas revelaciones increíbles provenientes de Mike Wolf. Pero primero, Mike Wolf contiene una visión muy grande sobre lo que contienen los archivos de Jeffrey Epstein. Todo esto lo deduce a través de las conversaciones que tuvo personalmente con Jeffrey, de lo que sabe como biógrafo de Donald Trump y de lo que sabe a partir de todas sus fuentes privadas. Mike Wolf grabó este video antes de que la congresista demócrata García y su equipo de comité de supervisión de la Cámara de Representantes revisaran los archivos de Jeffrey Epstein. Archivos que Donald Trump le entregó la semana pasada con 33.000 documentos, que al final del día, después de revisarlos, se dieron cuenta de que de esos 33.000 documentos, entre el 97 y el 98% no tenían nada que ver con el tema de Jeffrey Epstein, o si lo tenían que ver, ya eran archivos públicos. Y Mike Wolf lo dijo antes de que todo esto ocurriera. Él dijo: te garantizo que Donald Trump no va a dar ningún documento nuevo. Y una de las cosas que Mike Wolf dice que probablemente están dentro de estos archivos, y de hecho yo quiero que lo escuches directamente de él, es porque el Departamento de Justicia del Distrito Sur de Nueva York rompió con la política tradicional como tal del Departamento de Justicia y violó un acuerdo de no enjuiciamiento con Jeffrey Epstein y con sus co-conspiradores. Acuerdo que fue firmado en el 2007 por Alex Acosta, quien en ese momento era fiscal federal del Distrito Sur de Florida. Esto como tal nunca había pasado antes. Este es uno de los principales argumentos de apelación de Ghislaine Maxwell ante la Corte Suprema, que el Distrito Sur de Nueva York nunca reconoció un acuerdo de no enjuiciamiento firmado una década antes por el Distrito Sur de Florida. El equipo de Maxwell sostiene que este acuerdo debería de vincular a todos los distritos, mientras que el sistema judicial de Nueva York dice que no vincula ni al segundo distrito ni al Distrito Sur de Nueva York. Y este es un tema que está ante la Corte Suprema. Pero lo que Mike Wolf está preguntando es, claramente el Distrito Sur de Nueva York rompió sus propios protocolos que son normales para procesar a alguien que tenía un acuerdo de no enjuiciamiento. Bueno, hay varias posibilidades, porque también se podría decir que Donald Trump ordenó que esto sucediera para que Jeffrey Epstein no hable. Pues Jeffrey Epstein en este tiempo estaba hablando mucho con Mike Wolf, y Donald Trump se enteró de esto y dijo: vayan, destruyan a Jeffrey Epstein. Esto es algo que Jeffrey Epstein pudo haber temido en ese tiempo. Pero bueno, yo quiero que tú escuches a Mike Wolf decirlo, quiero que prestes mucha atención ya que es muy importante, así que escucha atentamente. Mira el clip, por favor.
Trump has been making phone calls this weekend, and he's been asking people the following question: what should I do about Maxwell? Now that means he actually knows certainly what he wants to do about Maxwell, and he may know the decision he's made about what to do with Maxwell. And that is, of course, to pardon her. But now let me just recap a moment. So the Wall Street Journal ran a letter that Donald Trump had written to Jeffrey Epstein in 1993 on the occasion of his 50th birthday. Within the White House, the assumption is that that was leaked by the Maxwell camp, by her lawyers or her family. And there was great panic in the White House, and immediately Trump sent the number 2 in the Justice Department, Todd Blanche, his personal attorney, down to the prison in Florida where Ghislaine Maxwell is serving a 20-year sentence. So the number 2 in the Justice Department goes down to have a discussion with a convicted felon and sex offender. The transcript of that interview is published over the weekend. What it says is the following. Ghislaine Maxwell says Donald Trump is a wonderful guy. Fantastic. She never saw him do anything bad to anyone. Never anything inappropriate. Perfect gentleman. And then the next thing she says is that birthday letter, that birthday card that Donald Trump, that the Wall Street Journal says Donald Trump has written. She never saw it. She was in charge of the birthday book, but she didn't see this card. The third thing, it really just jumps out at you, is how obsequious Todd Blanche, the number 2 in the Justice Department, is to Ghislaine Maxwell, the convicted sex offender. He's bending over backwards. It's like a tea party. So again, in Trump world, things are exactly what they seem. And what they seem here, of course, is that Ghislaine Maxwell has done what she has to do to earn a pardon from Donald Trump. I think it's worth explaining the pardon process in the Trump White House. And that begins with the circumstance, the rather peculiar circumstance, that Donald Trump is very sympathetic to criminals, or a certain kind of criminals, wealthy criminals. Criminals that have the power, the money, the power, the influence, and the reach to get his attention. If you can pay the people around Donald Trump to go to Donald Trump and say this person deserves a pardon, then in some sense, you're then part of the Trump family. And this has a very specific impact on the Trump circle, because this is a way for people around Donald Trump, his whole large circle of loyalists, to get paid. People come to them and say, I want a pardon. And they say, this is the cost of me representing you to Donald Trump. And that has two benefits to Donald Trump. First, the people around him get something. They get paid. He doesn't have to pay them. Someone else pays them. And second, they get paid because of their loyalty to Donald Trump. The criminals, the wealthy criminals, keep his circle together and keeps his circle loyal to him. Hence, you get a pardon. Hence, Ghislaine's pardon is on its way.
Te lo dije, es alucinante cuando escuchas a Mike Wolf, más que todo pensando que él es una persona que pudo hablar directamente por horas y horas, tanto con Donald Trump como con su familia, como con Jeffrey Epstein. Y habló con él justamente antes de que él muriera. Este mismo hombre también escribió varios libros sobre Donald Trump. Es más, incluso este hombre se ha sentado a comer en Mar-a-Lago junto a Donald Trump y junto a Melania. Mike Wolf considero yo que es de las personas que tiene más conocimiento sobre este tema. Y esto es lo que dijo que sus fuentes están diciendo sobre Ghislaine Maxwell y sobre que están buscando un indulto. Y que Donald Trump pasó todo el fin de semana pasado buscando cuál sería la mejor forma de darle un indulto a Ghislaine Maxwell. Miren el clip, por favor.
It's actually in the Epstein files, portions of which are now being released to Congress. This is my surmise about what the government holds. First, there are the depositions taken from the many accusers of Jeffrey Epstein. Then there are the FBI's separate interviews with some of the accusers and an assessment of their credibility, which might not be pleasing to the MAGA people. Then there's the DOJ's internal discussions of why they took the unprecedented step in 2019 of breaking their 2007 non-prosecution agreement with Epstein, and potentially who brought pressure on whom to make this happen and to whose advantage this might again, unprecedented act might have been. Then there's the investigation of the death, which I suspect was cursory. Then there are his emails, which will connect perhaps hundreds of new people to the list of people with which Epstein was acquainted, including many people in the first Trump administration, many Trump friends, and quite likely they contain new details about Epstein's relationship with Trump. Then the hard drive, and here we might likely find financial information that will alarm, worry, possibly destabilize many regimes abroad. In other words, much of what is in these files will reflect badly on everyone, keeping this scandal going for many years. Therefore, what we will likely see is only versions of what we have seen before. And the secrets, the true secrets, will remain hidden for some time to come. But let me focus on what may be the most damaging, immediately damaging part of these files. And that's the DOJ's discussion of why, in fact, they took the unprecedented step to break the non-prosecution agreement in 2019. In 2007, Epstein entered into an agreement with the Justice Department, a binding written agreement, that the Justice Department would not prosecute him on federal charges if he pled guilty to state charges in Florida. This is not an unusual step. What is unusual is that the Justice Department would then later renege on its agreement. So what were the reasons for this? Who brought pressure on whom to do this, and who benefit? Part of the discussion has been that the 2007 agreement was too lenient. He should have gone to jail for far longer than he did, and that the Justice Department was somehow complicit in this. And that's almost been the excuse for why no one has looked closely at the 2019 decision to go forward, to renege on the agreement and to go forward with the prosecution. The issue, however, is that the Justice Department is not saying we made a mistake, we're blaming ourselves, we are taking this step because of something we did, which might not be legal anyway. They are taking this step for reasons we don't know, but we can assume that there is a meaningful issue here. Somebody wanted this done. Now, it could quite be, and this is what certainly there may exist in these files, is either Donald Trump's communication to his Attorney General, Bill Barr, that something had to be done about Epstein, who had begun talking, not least of all in my books, about his relationship with Donald Trump. He needed possibly to be shut up. How explicit might that be in these files? Or it may have been the Southern District, the office of the Justice Department in New York City, which has always been fiercely independent and may well have been conducting its own investigation of Donald Trump and sought to bring leverage on Jeffrey Epstein for him to tell what he knew in his long relationship with Trump. So, specifically, what information was it looking for, and what did the Southern District believe that Jeffrey Epstein could tell it about Donald Trump? This might well be in the Epstein files, might well be for Donald Trump, the most fearful thing in the Epstein files. At any rate, we can only assume that what's in these files is far more damaging than the damage of not releasing them, and that so far has been considerable.
Esto es increíble, y todo este material viene directamente de él. O sea, esto no es creado por inteligencia artificial, no es nada de esto. Esto es un hombre real diciendo cosas reales y que tiene experiencia, que vivió, que estuvo horas con ellos. Considero que esto es una de las declaraciones más importantes que he traído al canal. Espero que lo valores, si es así, créeme que valoraría mucho que lo pongan en los comentarios. Y bueno, yo cumplí con mi misión, que es informarte, como lo hago absolutamente todos los días. Como siempre te digo, para mí lo más importante es tu opinión y me encantaría que la pongas en los comentarios. Además, si este video te gusta saber de política estadounidense, te gusta enterarte de lo que está pasando día con día en Estados Unidos, te va a encantar suscribirte al canal, ya que subo videos todos los días. Mi nombre es José Alvarado, soy economista y estoy comprometido a informarte diariamente. Nos vemos en el siguiente video. Adiós.